Hello and welcome. I'm Vincent Makori. This is Africa 54. We begin in Southern Africa, where Mozambique residents voted on Wednesday in an election that is expected to keep the country's ruling party Frelimo in power. Mozambique is considered one of Africa's fastest growing economies, but citizens say they want to see even more economic changes. VOA's Anita Powell visited the bustling main market in Maputo to talk to voters about their priorities.
Mozambique's relaxed capital was shaken 4 years ago, when residents rioted for 3 days over the rising costs of bread, electricity, and gasoline. This was the scorched aftermath. In all, 13 people died. Since then, the government has responded by upping domestic food production and instituting some price controls. The nation also got an economic boost with the recent discovery of massive gas deposits. So in this election season, Mozambique's government and its critics are keenly aware that popular support hinges on one thing: the economy. This is clear at Maputo's central market, wallpapered with political election posters. Many voters here say the economy is their top priority.
We have a lot of people without job, without work, so we need a special thing, we need the government, we need change.
Potato seller Constantino Basilio Manis says he can literally count how he's benefited from the government's economic policies.
The government has enabled us to have more farming plots, which allows us to have more local products. So we don't have to get products from South Africa because we have our own products.
His colleague in the fish market agrees that things are better, but wants the government now to improve infrastructure.
I'm happy at the moment because prices are not going up. They've been holding steady.
But not everyone is prospering. The largest trade union says unemployment stands around 23%. That has prompted some Mozambicans to swear off the longtime ruling party, Frelimo, which has handed the mantle of power from outgoing President Armando Guebuza to the relatively obscure Defense Minister Filipe Nyusi. Many say they prefer the populist rhetoric of longtime opposition leader Afonso Dhlakama, who leans further left and has drawn huge campaign crowds.
Guebuza, no problem. I don't know the news. Dhlakama is very good. Yeah.
Mozambique has walked a long road since this leader, Samora Machel, brought the nation out from under Portuguese colonial rule. Citizens say many things have improved and opened up in the last 2 decades. But they say 20 years is a long time for many Mozambicans to wait to benefit from an economy full of promise. Anita Powell, VOA News, Maputo, Mozambique.
Well, for more on today's vote, VOA's Anita Powell joins us on the phone from Maputo. Anita, there is always some level of apprehension and tension whenever there's an election in some African countries. How can you describe the atmosphere today and the ongoings there today?
Hi, Vincent. Well, I guess it depends where you were in Mozambique. Maputo was a carnival atmosphere, very optimistic. But we have heard some worrying reports of possible opposition supporters vandalizing and burning ballots in the country's northwest. We've heard that 3 polling stations were closed there because of that. So that is a mixed bag. It's unfortunate for those voters in the northwest, but in Maputo, the mood was buoyant.
Now, there were talks of the youth having a really big stake in this election and the future of Mozambique. How was the turnout, especially of the youth?
So the turnout was described generally by reporters around the country as being quite high. In Maputo, personally, what I saw were people of all shapes, sizes, from very young to very old voting. This country, 65% of people are under the age of 25. So that is, you already have a lot of young people, and they did turn out in force. But how many exactly, that would be hard for me to say, but it looked like a robust turnout.
Now, there have been projections that the ruling party Frelimo is likely to win these elections. What are critics or analysts basing their projections on?
So I would say that this is actually, there are 2 narratives that you hear from people who are voting for Frelimo. There's a narrative that Frelimo itself is trying to sell, which is, we're the party that liberated you from colonialism in 1975. There's no more war. the economy is better. That's one narrative, and there are voters who subscribe to that. There's a more cynical narrative among Frelimo voters, which is there's no viable opposition. That's what they say about Renamo, which they say too often resorts to violence, hasn't set up a viable plan, and so they're voting with Frelimo because they believe it's their best bet.
Now, we didn't mention the other parties. Who else is of significance among the other opposition candidates?
So there's a really interesting new party called the Mozambique Democratic Movement. It's led by a former Renamo leader, who is the mayor of the second largest city. His name is Davis Simango. At the very most, I think analysts expect that they'll draw votes away from Renamo. I don't think any analysts are predicting an MDM victory, but it is a new entry into the field, and it could only be good, I suppose, for multi-party democracy in Mozambique.
So when are we likely to know who is the next president of Mozambique?
We might know as soon as Saturday. It's really too soon to tell. Maybe the results will be very, very close and there will be a runoff. But we should know something, at least about what the power positioning is and who came in what place by about Saturday.
And very briefly, of course, this election also is for members of parliament and other representatives of the people, right?
Right, it is. And that is also an interesting angle because we may see possibly Frelimo lose a little bit of ground in some areas, but we'll just see how that shakes out when we get the results.
Well, Anita, thank you very much. That's viewers, Anita Powell reporting live from Maputo, Mozambique.